Hello, everyone. This is Oriana with FanoosMagazine.com. I am here with my dear longtime friend, fellow dancer, producer, artist, just maven extraordinaire, Jennifer from Orlando, Florida. Welcome, Jennifer. It's so good to have you.
Hi, hon.
So, this issue is about running events. And I know that you've always been involved in quite a few events in some sort of way or another, but you've really transitioned into being an event host, a producer, a sponsor, even. So, tell us a little bit about what your decision was to start doing that more often.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so fun fact. So I was 19 when I started. No idea how big yet small the world that this niche that we're in is. I would say within a year, I was already involved in events because I'm 19, I'm in college, I'm broke. So I don't know how, but I have the balls to ask if I can volunteer. Figure I don't have a lot of money, but I know at the time there was like Sparkle. Sparkle's Holiday Half was like the thing back in the day. And Sparkle, I had seen her and I knew her and she was very sweet. And I was like, I didn't have a lot of money. And I was like, hey, do you need a volunteer? I would love to come to this event. A little tight right now. Typical, I think I was like 20 at this time. And she was like, yes, yes. Oh, we could always use someone. I was like, yay. And I have always been a type A, organized, disciplined person in the workplace. I swear I am a Pisces and I am like super all these things in my personal, but I'm very focused with anything I do when I put my mind to it. And so quickly that comes about, and I'm doing administrative, helping with various marketing things. One of her proteges, Kendra, was super involved in it too. So I was learning and shadowing without thinking I would ever do this. Behind the scenes, I never used my name for years. At several events, I would volunteer, I would help while I was in college and broke. And I learned the trade by watching, by experimenting, by suggesting, by trying, by failing. And then when I decided I was going to like produce something, it was with someone that I was very comfortable with that I knew, which was what my like one of my first mentors, which was Hind. And I said, I don't know how she's not huge in Florida. She's amazing. And at my young age, like I know I didn't have the eye as much, but I knew she was good. And I was like, I need to sponsor her. I'm broke. I'm 20 something in college. And I said, okay, I'm gigging off belly dance and some night jobs here and there. And I'm interning in the day too with my, what would become my career. And I go, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna gig my hiney off. I'm gonna make this with the budget I can afford. And I will spread the word back in the day before social media was big, the best way I could with the resources I have. And we sold out. And it was hard and it was so rewarding. And it was really close, to not to freaking out, right? The whole time, like, this is gonna sell. I don't even know, but she's amazing. I have to do this. And it worked. And then after that, it kind of gave me some more confidence, like, okay, maybe I can do this. I'm not expecting it to be a great result every time, but I'm gonna sure give it a try. Like if I'm focused and if I'm disciplined and if I just come from the heart at this, it should happen. And it has every time that I go. It's not always, this big, successful, humongous thing. They're very different sizes depending on the intention and the theme. And, it's kind of grown over time. But in my heart, I'm happy I go to sleep and I know that these people, I really believe in what they're doing. You can tell they're working hard behind the scenes. They're here in our community and our little niche of a part of the world. And that feels really good to connect with people on that. So since the beginning, almost.
I can actually relate to that. You know, I think volunteering at events is super underrated because sometimes people think, oh, if I just sign up to volunteer, I'll just get to attend for free. And then other people are like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know what that entails. But I would have to say the point that you touched on, which is if you're serious about learning the business, especially how shows are run, how events are run, what goes into them, many events may offer a discount or something maybe, but you're going to learn so much if you apply yourself as a volunteer. It is invaluable on the job training.
It truly is. And I started it without the intention of being ever like an event producer, but I said this is I'm gonna learn. Like you're gonna learn something you get to learn just with the instruction, but then you go picking up all the behind the scenes and you go, wow, there's so much into this. And you can find a different passion within it. It's pretty cool. But for years, no one knew I was behind various events in my community. And I learned a lot of also human behaviors that were maybe questionable, entitlement, and then also people you could see who was very humble and who was very giving. I got to see a lot of the behind the scenes that I'll never really share who's who, but those were invaluable lessons at a very young age to go through.
I completely agree. Completely agree. And like you said, like I've known you forever, and you've always been extremely organized. You're very disciplined. You're very mindful and intentional. And running events is no joke. There's a lot of moving parts, especially if you're bringing in like big international artists. There's kind of this myth of like if you just bring in a name big enough, it'll just sell itself out.
Oh
And
no,
that's not necessarily true.
I wish.
Correct. You would think, but it's not like you can just book somebody and then it's guaranteed. So you have another event coming up for your O Town Intensive. One of my favorite artists, Mercedes Nieto, is coming. So
Yeah.
tell us how you pick your artists. You've had Khadija, you've had Shahrazad, you've brought in some heavy hitters. What is your process for choosing those names when there are seemingly so many people that you could choose from?
Yeah, it's hard. So for this event, the O Town Belly Dance Intensive, this one specifically is the only one that I co-sponsor with. So this one, it's not just me. I can't take any or all the credit at all. It's me and Anais. So she's the mind behind River City Rocks. So a lot of this is like very much we're like chit-chatting back and forth. Who do you want to bring? And she'll name some names. And okay, and I'll put a list of names. And then we go saying, okay, like do we want, and it's for me, like we're very different. For me, it's like, okay, who do I think in my perspective is doing the work behind the scenes? They're consistent. For me, consistency is very clear. It's okay to take like a break from dance. That to me is not being inconsistent, but when you're here, it looks like they're prepared. It looks like they are healthy. That's important because sometimes you hear these stories about artists that come high as a kite, like I've hear so many things. So I'm always very mindful of these things. Who do I think? I'll never have met some of them ever personally, right? So I'll do like a Zoom call. I'll be like, I want a meeting. I want to make sure that their energy is one that I think will be really giving and loving and not just like I am so master instructor. But I don't like to say master instructor, that is from here and I deserve this. Is like, I don't want divas or divos. That to me is a big requirement too. And someone that's flexible and open-minded, I feel like that will people will really like fall in love with, and they'll be like, wow, I learned something. So it doesn't matter how big the name is. It's just kind of all these things in one. I want like a good human and really someone that could give something of value.
Again, excellent points. And I think anybody that's also interested in trying to be a part of events, those are good points to remember if you are approaching event organizers too. You want to be professional, easy to work with. It's not the same as a job interview. People want to, like you said, fall in love with you.
Hmm.
So, being that you're in Florida, you're in the same state as me, and I know all of our stuff that we have here in Florida. But, it's kind of like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Anywhere you go, you have your local community and then you have your international community. So if you are organizing an event, and whether you're bringing in, we're going to say a more local or, national instructor versus an international instructor, how does your marketing and your preparation change?
Oh, to me, it doesn't. It doesn't. For me personally, I don't put like, oh, because maybe you're a smaller name, let's say, or you're a bigger name, you're gonna get suddenly like some more energy out of me I don't have. Like, I would say if the name is smaller, it's even like it could be harder for more people to know who you even are, right? You can argue that point. For me, I put the energy and the focus. It doesn't matter how big or small. That's just my perspective. And I know some organizers maybe they disagree, and that's okay. But for me, I'm going to give it everything I can with the tools and the time and the resources I have because I want to give all of them the like respect they deserve. I wish I could give more. Like sometimes I'm like, gosh, I wish some of them I could pay more. I can give more. I can give them a bigger stage or something, but it's up to the time frame and everything that's going on with these events that dictates how things go. The economy, like there's things beyond just our community that affect everything.
That actually leads me to my next question. Obviously, until you run an event, and when you do, most people, when they run their first event, whether it's a weekend intensive or a single workshop with a local instructor that they like, suddenly they realize how much goes into it. And it's a lot like planning a wedding or a really big party where there's all of these little details that maybe you didn't think about because you're focusing on the main event. But there's all of this work that goes on behind the scenes. So, what are some things that maybe you've run into or you've seen people run into that people don't think about when they say, I'm going to have an event?
Oh gosh. I've been able to like watch a lot and and go through a lot myself, but golly, I will often see it's like the same thing over and over, right? Is not enough or like we don't want to like bother. Okay, this is my perspective. I know I need volunteers, for example, put myself in the shoes. And I'm like, okay, I know I need volunteers. I know it takes a village, and there's always people that help, which is wonderful. Oh my God, thank goodness. And some of the small things that you're usually like, is you need to have like the MC of the music and it not be you, ideally. That's one of the ones I see really often with small events because the budget is so small, typically with the less people, the less size, the less scale. It's still all the effort, it's still all the planning, but you don't have as much of a big team to draw upon. So MC usually gets left behind. Um, Having the volunteer that can sweep, get props, or put them on and off stage, that's one. Then on like the actual like workshop, like front facing class end, you'll always have the check-in and all of that mania. But a lot of times you also need that freedom to talk to everyone during the break. You want to make sure they're at least for me, that they're meeting each other and they're not just going with their natural, one or two people are off to the side alone. Like me in my brain, that always I'm like, no, they have to meet each other. Like, but this is me. These are like my own personal anxieties. But to me, that's like part of it. It's like, it's not just the class. You gotta talk to each other, meet each other, network. Oh my God, I would be nothing without my community and meeting them at these events. And then there's also all the details that are often forgotten too about like the back end stuff of you have to update the website consistently, the payment processing platform consistently, the flyers that every time the price changes or there's a special or there's a holiday consistently, and be following up with people every time they ask you a question, not forgetting, being like super organized consistently. Even if you're tired, even if you're working overtime, even like your energy has to be put in this project because it's something special you're trying to do and it takes a lot of work. And you have to do your best and still be a human, but you're still performing at the same time. It's like everything rolled in one. because you want people to be happy at the end of the day with this because it delivered, you know?
1,000%. There are so many little details, and honestly, like in talking with people and in working in events myself, having done events myself, one of the biggest concerns is attendance. Anybody that you talk to who runs events, one of the first things that they will tell you that they are stressed about is attendance. And are we going to get enough people through the door to quantify all of this effort that we're doing and bringing in somebody? You have to pay for the venue or the stage or whatever it is that you're using, the studio space. So in our local community here in Florida, what advice would you give to other event producers when it comes to considering the quality of the event versus the attendance that they want to have? Meaning, how can you quell some of that anxiety?
Okay. Oh, so many different angles come to mind. Okay. It is normal to feel some of that panic, especially I think in Florida where there's an event every week. Okay, let's be honest. We are so spoiled to the point where it's oversaturation for the amount of market that we have, right? It's a beautiful problem. So it is what it is. It's a beautiful problem. Okay. And so I would say the first thing before we even get to answering that is these are community dance, community cultural events. So the first thing before you even put on the event is talk to the other event community organizers, preferably in the state. My friend Jackie Nadira, she has a calendar, a Google Calendar. She's just trying to slowly get everybody on it. So all the sponsors can see what events are coming up and the dates that they've picked for next year. First dibs, first dibs. You know what I mean? But you kind of respect and always have your event in the same general time, month, so that people too get to know when that is. So to not have so much anxiety before you have the event, communicate about when you want this event to be and make sure it's not stepping on someone's toes, that other sponsors know. I mean, you guys are each other's like support if you're, it's your community. So you want to support their events, they want to support yours, and then you're hoping that all the students and the teachers and everyone will come if that artist or that person, they believe in. So there's all this back end stuff from a sponsor standpoint, that you're doing. And then once you have the event, it's very natural, yes, to be like, okay, I need X amount to break even based on this year's price hikes, because everything goes up every year in Orlando, particularly, I feel, or Miami. So once you know your numbers, I'm a numbers person, you go, okay, this is the goal to break even. Anything extra is wonderful. What do I need to do to start? How do I make the plan to roll out this information? Who do I envision would be a great fit for the workshops, the show, as volunteers? Because I know a lot of girls, like the next generation is here for me. I'm going to be, I'm a 20 years ago, that's where the girls are in the new generation. They're in college. They're the ones that don't have a lot of money and struggling. So I'm thinking of all these things as I'm rolling out, this type of event. And yes, there's always the math that you keep in mind. But there's also like no risk reward. And you have to know that this is a risk. When you put on an event, you have to know what you're comfortable with losing. So I will not put on an event unless I know I can cover it because I am someone that's debt averse. Even when I was 19 starting this business and I needed props and costumes, I lead with revenue. That's one of my lines, lead with revenue. So if I have $50 extra from a gig, $50 not enough to buy me a sword. I will wait until the fourth gig and then I will buy that sword. And it's the same, still the same with the events. How fancy or how, more, I guess, relaxed or homey is based upon the attendance. If there's not enough attendance, how can I get a theater? I can't get a theater, but we can turn a studio into, put a backdrop, put lights, it still be beautiful. If there's not enough attendance, okay, we probably can't have the videographer. If we do have enough attendance, we can have the videographer. Or maybe I can't have a MC, or maybe I can. So it's dependent on the community support that dictates, for me personally, how luxurious or homey the event will be. And so I never know until essentially the event marketing has begun and I see, okay, they're either selling quickly or maybe not as much, and that's okay. This gives me a good indication of whether this is going to be big, medium, or small in size. And all of them are beautiful. And I will approach it either in a really intimate way, more mid-sized way, or I get to really have the budget to give people more of like those luxuries that we just depends on the size.
So am I hearing you accurately that you might book your artist and start rolling out your marketing material before you even have the theater booked or before you have some things planned because you're waiting for that revenue from the pre-booking to come in? That is very
Exactly.
smart.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. You lead with revenue. That's my way. And I know not everyone does it, but to me, I find that that tells me, does the community feel like supporting? Or maybe it's bad timing. Maybe it's the things outside my force, like the hikes went up and people got laid off. And you know what like it's been such a interesting wave over this last 20 years to watch. Every year is something new. So for me, that's why when you asked me initially, is it different when it's a big artist or maybe someone that's a really local, they don't have a name yet? It's the same marketing for me. And I will see what the community can support with what's going on in and out of our control at the time. And that will tell me a lot.
I think that's extremely wise because a lot of people, when they ask about or they start to have the idea of starting to do events or they might want to do some community things, they think that they have to have everything lined up before they even begin. And that's very, not only expensive, but also overwhelming. You know, that's a lot of things before you have sold any tickets and you don't know who to expect. But I also think, you know, when you and I were first starting, because we started at roughly the same time,
Yeah.
a lot of these festivals and events were kind of more like convention based. They were very large scale. You're staying
Huge.
at the hotel that it's being held in. So there is this pretty high upfront cost, both for the organizer and for the attendees. And obviously, like you said, you hit it on the head. Everything has changed so much in many, many, many different ways over the years that there's more than one way to think about this.
Yeah.
And you can have something very small in a studio, pop up a backdrop, like you said. But I would say that a lot of the events that I know I've been attending lately, they're really great and I love them and people love them, not because they're super fancy at times, but because they might be very educational or unique or very transformative. So what elements do you try to inject into your events, or what do you look for in other events even that means the most to you?
Connection. Personally, that's what's kept me going. Even when I left and I had to come back, which was a big lesson for me personally. The connection has been what's kept me through. I think in a time and an era where there's the real world and then there's the online world. That's how I define them. I don't see them as the same, and I don't think I ever will. And at a time where it seems like this online world has a lot of chaos, which the algorithm is designed to do. I am in tech, by the way. Um, in the real world, it's really beautiful. And and that community there, that support, even if you don't get along with them, sometimes you piss each other off and then you cry and you hug each other and you're okay. That to me is why I still go to workshops. I'm still a student all the time. because I get to see everyone. It feels like a family reunion, like a friends party. Like no matter where I go in the state or even across like the United States, like we know each other. It's the coolest thing. You're gonna find someone you know, and if you're starting out, you won't, right? But it takes time, but over time it builds. And it's literally like, oh my God, hey, like you're reuniting. And it's that feeling that I want. It sucks that, like, for me, I struggle because I want more time for connection. So, like, with O Town, for example, we built in our lunch, time before for check-in, and then I want an hour extra paying the studio every day just so people can talk. I want them to talk at lunch. I want them to talk after. And ideally, they get there a little early, they can talk. Like we pay extra for this because this is what I will always remember when I'm 100 will be the people I met. And that's what keeps me going personally.
That is not only profound but accurate, honestly. And like, I mean, like I said, like you and I have known each other forever. Like I can't even remember how many events we've ended up together at.
So
And
many.
I mean, I've left the country and run into people that I know. I've gone to other states and I know people that are going. You always find roommates and you find just that time, like, where are you going to lunch? What'd you bring? What are you up to? Like, and then you start having those conversations on top of these wonderful workshops and time that you're spending together learning the same subject.
Yeah. You just mentioned something that's so key. The rooming together. I'm gonna be like 100 years old and I'm still gonna be rooming with dancers. Not because I can't afford it, not because the people and the relationships I've made when we room together, they're seeing me with no makeup on. I got no bra on. I'm just like, we're talking about everything in the morning. We're celebrating after we performed. We're rolling and taking the kinks off our backs after the workshops together. There's something about the connection. It's everything. Like, it really is. And that point, I was like, yes, rooming to like how else would grown ass women and men be rooming together purposefully in regular life other than for these things? I mean, there's just a lot of like unique pockets that we get into with our like sorority houses that we do when we travel that are stories for a lifetime, honestly.
It's part of the entire experience, like when
Yeah.
we had to disassemble the fire alarm at the Airbnb that one time because it kept going off.
Or the electricity stopped at the Airbnb and we're figuring it out. And like, there's
That's
just,
right, we lost power.
but we have the best time laughing. And then it all works out. Like, there's always so many stories and just beautiful conversations over breakfast and beautiful conversations over lunch between workshops and beautiful conversations in between the show and there's pockets for that. And that's the part I don't want to hurry. And that's the part I want to like somehow make more of, honestly. And I'm getting totally off track, but that's like a big thing.
I no, but I don't think it's off track. I think it is very timely because what I learned at an event actually this past weekend was that in these times with everything going on, it cannot be understated that that's also time where human beings are face to face checking in with each other.
Mhm.
And there is something very important that
Oh,
too,
yeah.
where it's not over texting or over messenger, which is one thing, but to really look each other in the eye and say, how are you? Very-
Hug.
Yes,
So, yeah.
yes. So, last question. For others in the dance community that are thinking of hosting master teachers, what advice, or I should say master teachers or any teachers, if you're thinking of having haflas, more community events, anything like that, just to come together, what advice would you give about, and this is a big one, building trust and reputation?
Hmm.
I know that's a toughie because that could also be which way do you want to go with it?
Yeah,
But
there's two different ways I think of this.
hmm
So if it's about trust, that has a lot of angles because you have to trust in yourself, right? We're all humans and we're flawed. So if I'm trying to do an event and I'm going through some ish and I can't even trust myself right now, probably not a good time. First, you need to trust yourself because you're going to be the biggest cheerleader and the person that you need to be happy with at the end of the day when you do these things, because there will be challenges every time. It doesn't get any easier. Then, if you're talking about like trust amongst your peers, your colleagues, right? That can only be built with interacting and talking to each other. Like, not again, I did not grow up with social media, and it's always weird to me. This is to me is like not real life. So when you go to these events, when you go to support a halfling, when you go to a restaurant show, when you go see a theater show, talk to each other. Like have a conversation, being mindful that the dancer needs to dress or whatever, the situation is. Talk to each other, and that's how you build trust. Introduce to each other, make it a point to just be a human with each other, to stay up to date. And if you like it, you support it. If there's something that looks wacky, be like, girl, what was that about? Not making assumptions, like be humans and form those relationships. Because eventually you can have the biggest name coming to your town, but the people that support you are your community. And if you are someone that is not liked by your community and doing wrong by your community and causing drama in your community, it's probably not going to go well. Even if you're a good person, that doesn't mean that you're just going to have a whole sold out show. But it is a factor if you are a community player that you have a community show that you would have a community to rely on. It's just to be logic. If it's about the other side of the coin, what was the word you used? Forgive me.
Trust and reputation.
Reputation. Reputation takes time. And reputation, I mean, it's one of those things that it's like a generalization at the end of the day. Like, okay, I know Oriana is going to do a great job and she's going to prepare. She's going to prepare for whatever the thing is. I know this because over time, but if someone puts your reputation over 1 year's show and then next year's event, and that's not really reputation. That's just being a human over time, and we all learn and we're growing. So I think reputation is time that you're consistently trying to do your best with the right intention, to me, when it comes to this event and all this mania. Because you can be consistent and be consistently doing a shitty job. Let's be real. You could be consistent and sometimes you make a mess, or sometimes it's an outside force. Like this happens to me in a more recent event. Outside force, and I'm like, I can't even control that. Oh my God, everyone was hungry. Oh, how did this happen? Right? But you know that because of this long history of reputation, that people seeing that you really, really mean the best, that you really give it your all, you're really trying to do that, they go, oh no, Jen, we know this wasn't, you couldn't control this. Girl, this was out of your hands. Like, we know this. Sometimes you just need to hear that and you go, okay, that to me is more reputation, which I think is so different than like validation. Totally separate. So I wanted to say it to not, because people confuse it a lot. Um, yeah. That's what I have to say there.
No, that's a good one. Validation is very different than reputation. And I would
Very.
humbly point out, if you're doing events only for validation or to try to make a name for yourself, you might want to consider where you're putting your energy. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. You probably won't last in this industry. It's Events are beautiful. I love them, but you're dealing with and taking care of a lot of people. So it's not just like, oh, I go there and I check them in, and then the artist comes and I drive them here. You're taking care of a lot of people. So really consider what care means to you and what care means for the people that are coming. And you have to do the best you can with all of that.
Do you have any other events coming up besides O-Town Intensive, or any other projects that you're working on that you want
Oh,
to us?
so many. I'm always working on stuff. I'm a workaholic. Let's see. I am going to be teaching in Pensacola at Sarab Spring Hafla. That's going to be super fun. I'm excited. I've never been there. Then I have the Let's Talk Belly Dance podcast, which is all about talking about really hard stuff that only gets talked about usually behind the scenes. And we put it out there to give different perspectives. So that's going on every month. And I announce that on social media, on the website, all the things I tell my friends. And then, yes, we have O-Town Belly Dance Intensive 2026 coming up September 18th through 20th with Mercedes. And I think those are like the three that are on the top of my mind right now. It's probably not.
I would say those are the big ones. This has been a pleasure and a joy, and you are always extremely insightful and just have a wealth of knowledge. I would recommend anybody that wants to try to run an event or maybe needs help with some events, you can communicate with Jennifer and contract her for some coaching. She's definitely got plenty of advice. This was wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being part of this issue and for giving all of that just incredible words of wisdom. Stay tuned to fanoosmagazine.com for more.